Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is 3 neurotic traits that Pisces people may possess. And when I say Pisces people, it could even include the moon sign. I don't know if I'll put that in the title. I think I did for one of the signs, but anyway, sometimes with the moon, you might see this even more so. Because for me, neurotic traits are really self-concepts that the person has you know, created for themselves or believes about themselves that don't serve them, that are actually self destructive in many cases. And so that's what I want to talk about. And it brings to mind this, because this is the last sign that I'm doing for this series. And Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, but I don't always start with Aries and end with Pisces. I started mixing it up. But for some reason, a lot of times, I guess I end up doing Pisces last. And somebody wrote to me on YouTube and said, "How come you always do Pisces last," or something like that, or "You haven't done Pisces yet," or something like, "You haven't done Pisces yet." And it's like I could tell that it made them feel, I don't know about victimized, but looked over. And it's one of those things that's the first thing I want to talk about. The first neurotic trait that I want to talk about with Pisces is the tendency to feel like a victim. And one of the reasons I think that it's understandable that Pisces may feel this way is because I believe that more than perhaps the other signs, except for maybe the other water signs like Scorpio and Cancer, that Pisces people may have been victimized more than other people. Or at the very least, because Pisces is a water sign, that they take it to heart much more due to their innate sensitivity. So, but I actually, just by doing personal readings for people who are born under the sign of Pisces or maybe have the moon in Pisces, or reading about other like famous people, whatever, I feel like there is some truth to perhaps with Pisces, this being the last sign of the zodiac, and what that 12th house that Pisces rules represents. It is the house of suffering. Because it's the house of karma. And karma, it's not that karma is suffering per se, but it's like the person, the sum of all their deeds. That's what karma really is action. That's what that word means. And so our actions can yield positive results or negative results, but also kind of the suffering of humanity, the whole. That's what the Christ consciousness is all about, is understanding that and taking on the suffering of others. So that martyrdom can be what happens as well. And so sometimes Pisces has that attitude that maybe they feel guilty for something that they didn't do. That could be tapping into other people's guilt. Or, again, past life influences. But in any case, if you have experienced abuse, and if you feel like you're always getting the short end of the stick, that's something that you have to actively work on to kind of flip the script, because it's very easy to find reasons or like proof that you are being dissed or held back or whatever it is that you think is going on. The late Wayne Dyer said, if you look for reasons to be offended, you'll find them. And that's kind of the problematic side of that kind of situation, is that sometimes children are abused throughout their childhood, and when they get to be old enough where they can leave home and be on their own, you would think that it would stop, but it doesn't, because being victimized is something that can, a person can become their own victim and turn on themselves and start to do things that are self-destructive, or they can get into relationships where somebody else takes the place of the parent, right? So the bottom line is that, nobody is going to is going to grant you that kind of, I don't know how I'd put it. Nobody's going to break that cycle for you but you. So that's something to think about when, you automatically have that thought that something is working against you. And it's like, you're just always getting the short end of the stick. This becomes reinforced. Our thoughts become reinforced by this so-called evidence that we have that really isn't necessarily the truth. And even if we do notice patterns that are occurring in the outer world, we can choose to interpret those how we do. And so anyway, that's number one. And number two, that life is happening to you. And this is kind of a similar theme, because all of these things, this is an important point to make, is that it's not either or. There's some, things can be true and not true at the same time. And I think some people have that binary thinking where they think it's either this or it's that. No, you have to be able to be comfortable with the true and the false, coexisting side by side. So how this can play out is that a person can go through life with kind of a learned helplessness. Again, this originates from childhood trauma, because children are helpless. Children don't have the ability. Of course, some children escape some very harrowing situations, but I would never expect a child to be able to rescue themselves and to support themselves and, all of that. So I understand why people would grow up who have been abused with that kind of belief system. The problem is that when they take it into adulthood and then add to it with Pisces, because there's that spiritual influence, the person who's a Pisces can believe that maybe they are, I was going to say cursed, but what I mean is that maybe there is some astrological transit or past life that is causing them to have to suffer the way that they are. And the reason that this is problematic is because if a person operates like that, they are never going to see their own agency, their own ability to act on their own behalf as legitimate. They're going to feel like a victim of fate. And I do not believe that this is true. I don't believe that anybody's a victim of fate. I do believe that sometimes we have these soul contracts, these situations that can be quite challenging that we might have to experience because our higher self chose for us to experience them. But I never believe that it's something that is random and that it is something that is punitive. That, that we somehow are not as loved by God or whatever. So if you have this sense of fatalism about life, Pisces, that, it doesn't matter what you do, in the end, fate is going to step in and you're going to, whatever is meant to be is going to happen and you can't change anything. It's all predetermined. That kind of thinking is going to lead to a lot of passivity in your life when you could actually be shaping your future by your current actions. Number 3, escapism. Pisces is known for this because Pisces is ruled by Neptune, and Neptune deals with fantasy, transcendence, like the God experience, the mystical experience. And so Pisces, and because of emotional sensitivity, Pisces people tend to be very vulnerable, and therefore the world can seem especially harsh to somebody who has a sun or moon in Pisces. And while we can point to evidence that the world is not easy, as a matter of fact, I have read in books, it's said more than once that this is a very hard planet compared to other planets you can incarnate on in the, if you want to call it the material universe, and that we are very brave to choose to incarnate here. So there's no question that there is a lot of suffering on this planet and hardships, but the point that I would make is that there's a lot of beauty in this world, and that life, there's a lot of magical elements to this life, even on the material level. And I choose to see it that way. But I'm fully aware that there is suffering. I think that rather than being ultra sensitive, learning to put one's sensitivity in proper context can make a world of difference, as well as protecting one's energy. But in terms of how this can play out, a person with Sun or Moon in Pisces may find it hard to deal with, world events like that could seem very overwhelming, or the people in your life, the things that they go through. You're a natural empath, and you may be feeling what they're going through, or things that you're going through. And so the tendency is to, I don't want to feel this, I don't want to feel this. And so there can be all forms of escapism. Now, some of the ones that we typically think of are substance abuse, but there are other types of ways that people are either numbing out or distraction. And the movies, photography is ruled by Neptune. Anything that, brings fantasy, even reading books, obviously. Is it wrong to escape? I don't think it's wrong to pivot your attention, put it on something that is more in alignment with, how you would like things to be. I think so if you're reading some kind of a book and it puts you into that state where it's like, wow, wouldn't it be neat to live like this? I think that that's great. Reality from fantasy. So it's not like you have to be told that what you're reading about isn't in the physical for you, but maybe it can still be nurtured as a potential future reality. And so it's almost like reading books that kind of describe the type of life that you want to lead. It's almost like doing research on your future reality. But I would say, so in other words, how I would characterize this is, rather than putting attention on the things in life that really make you, feel vulnerable, feel fear, and really making that fear real in your mind, when it's actually, if something hasn't happened, fearing it is fearing a phantom. But rather than the people who are materialistic and they are always living in this 3D matrix, as if it's the end all be all of their potential in life. And when people do that, yes, of course they need that kind of protection. But if people really believe that there would be a golden age coming in the near future, maybe in 10 years from now, they would, if they really felt like that was a possibility, they might have a different way of looking at things that was more upbeat, that was more positive. And maybe they wouldn't have the same tendency to get drunk, to get high, and all of those things, because they feel too much. It really isn't about having strong feelings. It's about what you tell yourself about your feelings. If you tell yourself that life is full of pain, then that's what it becomes. But if you can celebrate, even when the emotions are very intense, and you can celebrate that intensity, and you can celebrate just the very nature of life itself, then you're able to really be immune from the outer world and what it throws at you. Because let's face it, that's what it really feels like, doesn't it? It feels like, okay, now I solved this problem. Okay, now there's this problem. But, you won't be overwhelmed by any challenges. Maybe you'll even look forward to solving those challenges or working with them. Okay, that's what I have for you, Pisces. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.